Welcome to New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and I'm very happy to have here with me today someone I feel is a compatriot in this vision of bringing consciousness to the public. And she is Lisa Gar. She is the host of the Aware Show in LA, and she's the author of Becoming Aware. Very exciting. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, how are you?
I know you're a host and you love hosting. I love hosting. Mm-hmm. So there you go. That's what we...
It's been fun. I've been on this book tour and then I've been on the other side of the microphone for a couple of weeks now, and it's really interesting.
But yeah. I had no idea, listening to you speak, that you had a near-death experience, and that's what... Right. Started you on the path of awareness. Mm-hmm. And you know, we can go through that, but I just want to know, like, that moment changed your life totally because of what did you realize?
Well, so many things, but I realized when I had that experience, when I was on a mountain bike and I fell off of the mountain and cracked my helmet, damaged my brain, mm-hmm. and went into the state of total pure expansion. Mm-hmm. Now, that's what they call a near-death, whatever it was. For me, the experience was so vast and so open and so boundaryless and so beautiful. That's what made me realize that we take this giant consciousness that we are, and then we try to fit it into our little bodies and then think that that's it. And then we walk through life with our little troubles and problems, and they are, mm-hmm. but we really think that that's just all there is. Mm-hmm. And it can all be solved at the level of consciousness.
It can be solved at the level of consciousness. Yeah. But why do we create those things in the first place? What's the reason for incarnation and those little, that you can sense?
Because of limited thinking, I think. We have not been taught to believe that we have unlimited potential. That we have that that things are possible. We've been taught what's not possible, and that things are limited, and that we're able to only create what we're raised with. But to really go beyond those boundaries, which is where I went. When I went into that experience, I went beyond the boundaries of consciousness, into the unconscious, and that's where I found everything instantly manifest as me.
So you have no fear of death now because you've been there. Is that true?
If that's what it's like. It's totally peaceful. It's quiet, and it's just a slipping into a stream of infinity.
So, the reason I do the show, maybe the reason you do the show, is to bring that awareness to people that we are infinite.
Oh, yes. And the people that I've interviewed, verify that. I just love Dr. Alberto Villoldo, the shaman, and he talks about the light body and how we come in as a light soul, and then we slow down into human form for a while into this solid form, and then we move back out as the soul into the light. And that's such a beautiful definition for me of what the soul does, where it comes in and slows down and goes back out, and that we're all a part of this infinite light source.
But why did we come in, do you feel?
Choice. I was thinking here, we're a soul and we want to have a certain experience, and then we just make, as far as I know, we don't go up there and make a decision. Mm-hmm. What I experienced wasn't a thought process at all. It was a being. It was a state of oneness. It was I am everything that is around me. That's what it was.
When you're talking, it feels like you can almost get back to that place. Almost like I feel you are. Do you feel that? I'm getting that transmission here.
Yes. Every time I talk about it, I'm reminded, and that's just what I love about talking about the book, is that I'm reminded of that space. Because here's something really interesting, is that when I was in that state of floating unconsciously, beautifully, painlessly, quietly, I had this vision of Asia. And then Asia was all of a sudden around me. And it became me. I had never had an interest in Asia. I never have yearned to go to Asia. It wasn't anything that was ever in my awareness. But the really interesting part is 15 years later, I wound up in Asia with a dear friend and her husband who had a near-death experience.
Oh.
And we were there. My husband actually saved him out of the water. We were there with him at that moment on the beach as he was transcending in and out. somehow my soul knew that
Oh.
15 years ago, that I would transcend in some way.
Oh, so this actually happened sort of recently, didn't it?
Yes.
And so you knew,
And it was my best friend, Gina's
right,
husband.
right, who's an amazing guy, and of course your producer Gina is an amazing person,
Yes, who's been with, yes.
and helped create everything. But
Yes.
wait, so let me understand what you're saying there. So you said when, yes, he had this swimming accent, but
Yes.
he was going in this outer body or this near-death state, and what happened to you exactly that
I
you
was
saw?
there on the beach with him
Right.
as he was drifting in and out, and I was holding his hand, and I
Ah.
could feel his body leave and come back,
Oh.
and leave and come back, and I could feel the soul. I haven't even shared this with Gina, but I could feel his hand, and I could feel his soul drifting in, and because I've done that, and I know that feeling, and I, as a soul, was intuiting that in him,
Oh.
it drifting, and he explained later, just so briefly, and we really even had the time to sit down and actually dig into this conversation, but he explained to me that he was looking at the horizon as he was laying on the beach, and it was, the sun was setting, and he was looking at the horizon at the boats, and he was drifting in
Above.
and out of that, of the universe. And that's what I was doing, is I was coming in and out of the universe, but realizing everything around me I even became, as I looked down at the medics below me that were working on my body, I became their thoughts. I could feel their thoughts. I could hear, I could experience them. But it was more than their thoughts. It was their soul's yearning, their soul's desire, their soul's unmet need. And that was my soul's experience at the time. It was unmet. It was unfulfilled. It was going in the wrong direction. And I needed to course correct. And that was exactly what I felt with the medics. They were assisting my body as where they needed to course correct, where their soul was going, where their unmet need was. And then some of them liked each other, and I could see that. And some of them, one wanted to be an artist, and I just remember that. I just remember their feelings.
Maybe that's your real calling, in a sense, is to help people connect to their soul's yearning. Maybe that's what you do on your show. I don't.
You know, that's a great point, and I'm really in my show, and because I never speak about this in my show, there's never the space. I always interview, as you do, people, and I hold them in their highest light and really highlight their information, because I'm truly interested. Because
yes, that's why we do it. Because
Yes.
we are so. But for you, because now you're being highlighted.
Yeah, it's hard for me sometimes.
No, but I also think that you being there holding this person's hand helped ground them back into a reality, because you've been there and back.
Yes.
Maybe, I'm not saying you.
It's, well, it is what I do on the shows, is that as I'm listening to people and really highlighting their purpose and getting to the root of why they do what they do, I hold the space for the listener to have that same experience, to listen with their soul. And I hold that soul space in every interview that I do. And it's like a dance. You started off with this kind of loose choreography of where you want to go, and then you go into this beautiful dance of ebb and flow of a conversation, as we are now. And then it winds up with something that you feel completed with. And that I do every interview with.
It's exciting, right? Because I'm feeling, your soul's yearning to be that expression of helping people with their soul's purpose. I mean, yes, you have a great voice and you have a great presence, and I know people enjoy your show, but is also what you're bringing with the book and your awareness is what I'm sensing is this thing too.
Thank you for that, because that's actually beautiful. I'm feeling what you're saying.
Yeah.
As I'm forming my entire message, it's beyond the book.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. It's beyond the hosting. You're absolutely right.
And it's just you being yourself, your simple self. And
I can't be any other way. It's impossible.
Right. No.
But you do live shows every day. You show up. And you show up with all your baggage and all your stuff from that day and all whatever toxicity might be happening, and you work it out.
But I also find doing a show is also a great place to just be present and let go of all the baggage and all the stuff. And
reset button.
Right, I'm like right here with you. None of the other stuff, none of the money people owe me or the work or that doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It's just right here with you.
Yes.
But going back to that vision, thank you, of Asia, when you had your near death, you saw Asia.
I did.
And
in a very interesting way, because I didn't expect it, and I remembered it years later, that it was, when you have a near-death experience, you do not remember it right away. Some do.
Right, because
but it's such an overwhelming experience because of my experience of being then rushed into airlifted into a hospital via helicopter, and I got to the hospital and then I couldn't speak. I had damaged my brain that much, and I lost my ability to speak.
Wow.
And I had all of that to deal with, plus a swollen brain, holes in my memory, long-term shock.
And it's still a process. But I just want to get back to the Asia stuff, because when this thing just happened in Asia, was that sort of like a time loop into the future that you saw back then?
Absolutely.
Oh, I get it.
Yes, which shows me that there is no linear time, that we have, you know, there's purposes that our soul still has yet to fulfill, you and me both. But yet we know it right now on an unconscious level. We just have slight awareness of it. I remember interviewing the woman from the Sandy Hook experience where she lost her son, Scarlett Lewis, and she lost her son Jesse. And the documenting in her book about what he wrote the day he went to school. And he wrote, "I love you, Mom," and she took a moment to take a picture. He wrote it on the window of the frost. And that he wrote at home, "Nurture, pray, love." And he was 6. And he wrote that in backwards words on a chalkboard wall at home. And all of the artwork that he was doing up to that point was a bad man in dark black clothing and with guns. And
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh my God.
All of this 6-year-old stuff that he was doing, that they went back and looked at and forensically. Just to do that whole experience was incredible, that she documented in her book of how he knew as a soul at 6 what was going to happen to him. It's an interesting how there's a whole psychology behind it of the soul and how it knows.
And also what you said, how it knows what it's yearning for and how it's still searching for that complete part. What you know, Anita Moorjani, I've interviewed her, you've interviewed her. Her book, Dying to Be Me, actually says that she needed to die in order to find out what she was here for.
What the absence of fear is, yes. Interviewing for her was so amazing for me because it was like speaking a different language. And we didn't actually speak much during the interview.
You didn't?
We felt. We went to that beautiful state of total consciousness, and we both started to cry. And it was such a beautiful feeling, because sometimes it's hard to find the words to express that level of consciousness.
Well, I find those are the best interviews, where it's not what's said, it's the connection that's made. And then the audience gets that too.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
of course. It's a feeling.
Yeah.
And it emits beyond us as our frequency does, and it gets absorbed by people as they need to, where they can meet it. And that's sometimes what we do, is that as we manifest our whatever goals and desires are, we start to create them, and then they emanate outside of our field, and that is a match for it comes and meets it. Just like what we're doing here with our frequency, it goes out and it gets met by the listeners, and it's a coherent field.
It is a coherent field, and as we plant seeds of possibility, and when you say we're this expanded state, it's going into their field and they're accessing those possibilities.
Yes, and I want to mention, I want to make sure, because people always ask me this, is do you have to go through a near-death experience to have that experience? No. You don't. And that's been my pursuit since then, is how to get back to that experience on a practical daily level.
Yeah.
So you're not dying when you're not going to a mountaintop in the Himalayas. You're bringing it here.
And how?
Visualization. I'm a huge fan. I've been doing some amazing visualization. In the book, there's visualization processes where you can actually go onto a little URL or scan your phone, and it takes you to a 15-minute video visualization processes that I've done in the book, just so people could have that experience.
Well, is that connected to what you say in here, remember the future?
Yes.
We'll talk about that.
Really cool process that I do in the book where people can view. And it's taking you to a different level of consciousness. We go to a higher level of consciousness in this process. And then we go out into our future and act as if we are in that experience of our goal realized, of our dream realized, seeing it, hearing it, feeling it, touching it, tasting it, smelling it, and turning it up, and really immersing yourself in that experience so that you really build the neural networks in the brain as if it is happening.
Right.
And then you bring that vibration and essence and frequency back here to now. And then you remember it throughout your day.
Right, and people don't realize how malleable reality is, because if you have those neural nets that something exists, even though you may not see it. This is, of course, what Joe Dispenza says.
Yes.
I knew Joe for 20 years. I know him since the Ramtha school days.
Yes.
So, but if you build those neural nets, if you know, then reality has to form around what you know. It's not delusional. It's building the reality to make it manifest.
Yes.
And
yes.
it does. I think in the Bible it says, "Think and it is so." Isn't there a line of Jesus in there?
That's a great reference. Wow.
Yes, yes, it is, because it is that way. And I think what you've shown in your book is that awareness of those realms, of what's possible, starts to build a future for people who may not think there is one for them.
Right, and that's where we started this talking about that exact thing, is that going beyond what we believe is possible. Opening yourself up to that thought, just opening yourself up to that thought, you start to do things differently, look at things differently, and look for things differently. Right. And that's the whole point.
Well, that's why I call the show New Realities, because there isn't anything I don't think is possible. I think everything is possible. And
I'm not in a Pollyanna state about that at all. No. But I'm just saying, start in that realm and start to look at things differently. And then you start to crack open your own reality and get out of your rut, because sometimes we become victims to our own thinking that what we have created and what our bodies do is it. And if you start to open up to the possibility or the new reality that there's a different way of being, a different way of thinking, a different way of acting, and that starts to open up new possibilities. We call them coincidences, synchronicities, weird, different,
Right. I even talk about UFOs, because that just blows the whole thing open. And I've seen things in the sky. I've met lots of people who have. So just considering that possibility changes the perspective on this reality completely. But even what you've had experienced, this awareness, this vast awareness that you are the field of consciousness, must change everything we know about reality, because we're not just these limited beings.
No, and sometimes that's what causes us the most pain, is thinking that we are, and thinking in our own little box, and waking up every morning going, this is my to-do list, and this is my struggle, and this is what and I don't feel good, and all of that keeps us in that container with the blinders on, and we just stay in that space. And if you take the blinders off through visualization, and if you do it enough times, the brain, again, as you know, starts to rebuild and reform new patterns, and you start to change the patterns. And actually saying, okay, I'm going to do something different here is a little bit more challenging, actually, than sitting in a chair, doing the visualization, doing something different, and then watching the miracles appear. Right. It doesn't need to be you actually going out and starting something different. Start in the chair.
So what do you want for yourself? I mean, you have done great things. You have a great show on Hay House. You've written a book. What is if you want to share, the next level of your own creative manifestation that you want?
Well, it's what I'm doing now, but more of it. It's getting to the largest platform possible so that we can communicate these messages that really, truly inspire people's positive growth and change in the largest way possible. Yes, I am asking for that.
So be it. Yes, let's do it. You just this is what I feel we're doing, and many other, building a new culture of possibility, and that's exciting.
Making it fun and practical and real, and in a real grounded sense. And that's what we're all about.
Well, it's very exciting for me and to talk and sit with you, to know that we're have a similar vision. I mean, I haven't had a near death, but I do remember my last lifetime, if you want to believe that, and it was like a near death, and coming in and leaving and being born on a conscious level, being reborn. So
an awakening.
Yes, I feel like I have that sense of those other realms.
You must, or you wouldn't do what you do.
Exactly. So, and I know what you're saying is true. And Eben Alexander actually said that too when I interviewed him. It's not how much, you know, the brain actually limits the experience. You know, it confines it, and actually what we are beyond the brain is this expansive consciousness.
Which is, I loved it when he said that the consciousness is outside the brain, because people always ponder, what is consciousness?
Right.
And he explained it, it's that field. Everybody's looking for it in the brain, and it's not there.
The brain is just downloading. Actually, you know, it was a really funny quote that I use of Edgar Cayce's. Do you know that quote? I actually opened the whole conference on near-death experience. Edgar Cayce said, it's not do we survive the death of the body, how much consciousness survives the death of the body. He says, how much does that vast consciousness survive the life of the body? And when we're born.
Interesting.
It's a little humor there.
Reversing it. No, that's great. That's great. That is great.
So I really enjoyed your book. I also wanted to ask you before we're out of time about your aunt, Terry Gar, who I think is, I loved her, you know, in Close Encounters, everything. How's she doing? What's happening?
She's, you know, she's in there. She's definitely in there, and she's a voracious reader, and she is in a wheelchair now.
Oh, she is?
Because the MS has kind of taken over.
Does she still have her sense of humor?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Because I know she was a big inspiration for you to come forward, and is she still that great, vibrant personality?
She is. Inside she is, and she makes great jokes, and she's always made me laugh, and even now she constantly says she's 29, and
Are you still close with her?
Yeah, I just saw her on Mother's Day.
Oh, maybe I'll go out and visit her with you sometime.
You're a big fan. She would love that.
I did always like her. I mean, in everything she did, she was like just really quirky and original and funny and
brilliant timing. Just an incredibly funny lady. Truly funny lady.
Yeah. So seeing her and her success in life, how did that affect you personally?
An amazing model for me to see what's possible. She was creating it out of thin air. I mean, her synchronicities were incredible. When she went on a jog one day and ran into Mel Brooks.
Oh.
I mean, this is her life, because she was in the right intention and she had the right ideas, and she really, really was living her passion.
So she planted seeds of possibility of what it was for you.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well,
and I got to hang out with her and Carrie Fisher and just
really?
listen to girl talk, and it was kind of cool.
So how much is that, like, Hollywood crowd open to this idea of consciousness and spirituality and all the things we talk about?
Some are, but they don't necessarily talk about it because they don't want to be labeled as weird. And that's what my point here is to bring it to a fun. Everybody talks about it, but not publicly. And it's because it's got this out there woo-woo reputation. Well, let's bring it into reality. Make it practical, fun, entertaining, sexy, whatever you want to do. Just bring it in.
I don't find it woo-woo. Of course, people call me that, but it's like, you know, and people, of course, criticize Shirley MacLaine, who I used to see on many retreats, and but yeah, we have to make this practical because it is practical. The science and the feeling of soul in the body is the next level of our evolution beyond religion.
And I talk about it in the book in terms of conscious conversations. You can start off by having a deep, connected conversation like you and I are for just a few minutes, and look at how it makes us feel.
Right, because I'm actually seeing, when you're present with me like this, I see the spark of your soul come out of your eyes.
You see me and I see you, and that means a lot. And it feels good.
It's everything, really.
Yeah, it is.
So just having that conversation with people you meet on the street and being present with them.
Even the people that you're in constant relation with, you know, your loved ones.
Those are the ones we forget.
You take those for granted every minute and just throw out the to-do list or the this and the that. What about that connection? That's the way you know, who you love.
Exactly. The exercise I do when I'm sort of talking about this is looking at someone. If you could see the spark of light coming out of them, you know they're present with you.
Yes.
And you know that exchange of the soul energy, it's connecting.
Yes, and you can see deep into the soul through the eyes.
Right, and we're actually one in that moment.
Yes, exactly. It's fun, I know, that's why.
No, we could just continue this conversation and just be, because now we're one.
Yes,
and
we've created a coherent field.
Right, and so we'll always go back there.
Yes, exactly. We've had a connection. Yes.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
It's really been great.
You too. Thanks for letting me be here.
Of course,
Yes.
of course. No, I hope we'll do more together.
Yep.
And that you are willing to be so present with your story and with your being. And, you know, I'm going to bring that into my interviews.
Oh, you already do.
I know, but even more,
Yes.
you're reminding of me of what else is possible.
Yes. Yes.
So
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Me too.
And good luck with this book.
Thanks. It's doing
Lisa
really well.
Gar, The Aware Show, the Becoming Aware. Becoming Aware is really underlying theme of it all.
Everything, yes.
And you, one more thing, you came up with the aware when you were in that near-death experience. Just tell us the story.
It was a dream that I continued to have, and it was on the side of a train.
Uh-huh.
And the word appeared to me, and so did the tagline.
And did you feel you were risking something when you decided to call the show The Aware Show?
Mm-mm, mm-mm. It was all synchronicity. It just lined up. After I kept having that dream, someone called and said, you know, there's a radio station that's looking for programmers, and it went off like that. It was really great.
And you're on every week on KPFK?
I'm on KPFK, yes, weekly, Hay House weekly, Guy MTV weekly, and Coast to Coast on the weekends.
And maybe my show weekly.
Yes.
Thanks. Thanks for watching. I'm here with Lisa Gar. And your website?
TheAwareShow.com.
Don't forget to be aware. I'm Alan Steinfeld for New Realities. And if you want to reach me, go to my website, newrealities.com, or email me at newrealities@earthlink.net. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.